Daniela E. Mendez, JD, CHC, Esquire, baby. She's an attorney, compliance and privacy officer. She works in employee relations. She's an implicit bias trainer. She's in the Florida Bar Leadership Academy. She's just been named one of the 36 lawyers under 36 for professionalism awards for the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division. She currently works as a corporate compliance and privacy officer at a hospital. And before that, she was a director of team member relations. She's also been an attorney ad litem. And she is a board member for Crossroads for Florida Kids, representing children in the court system. She was an adjunct professor at her alma mater, Cooley Law School, and a director of campus administration for their Florida campus. And she's been an assistant public defender. She has her bachelor's degree, her master's degree, her JD. She's also done work with the Innocence Project, representing individuals who are trying to get their convictions overturned due to wrongful convictions. So Miss Thing has done a lot of things, and she's my work bestie, even though we don't work together anymore. Welcome, Daniela.
Hi, Jocelyn. It's so good to see you. Thank you for having me on. And that was a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You deserve it. I couldn't cover everything, but I tried to kind of summarize. And this is our second podcast together.
It sure is.
One, yeah, there was no video, so now we get to see your beautiful face.
Thank you. I try to dress up just a little bit, but we're getting there.
Yeah, green is your color. I love you in green, so I'm glad you're wearing green. And your beautiful braids, which is now your signature look. Talk to us about your signature look, because we were talking off camera about how people don't even recognize you now without your braids. What got you into the braids, and how did it become your signature look?
You want to know something really bizarre to me is I've been relaxing my hair since I was 5 years old, right? My parents were very like, your hair must be relaxed. It must be easy to work with. And I didn't really know how to work my natural hair whatsoever. So I remember pandemic hits. I'm like, I can't go to the hair salons normally like I'm accustomed to. I used to get my hair pressed and relaxed every 6 weeks to the day. So I'm like, okay, I can't go to the Dominican hair salons like I'm used to. And I remember talking to a friend of mine and I'm like, you know what? I want to braid my hair. I think that would be great. It would be the first time I've ever braided my hair at 31 years old, 30 years old. I never braided it previous to that time. So I showed up at the hair salon and I'm like, I want braids. And the lady's like, what braids? Like, what type of braids? Do you want, cornrows? Do you want knotless braids, box braids? And I'm like, just braids. And she's like, show me a picture. Show her a picture. And she's like, those are knotless braids. And I'm like, yeah, I want them super long. And she's braiding my hair. And she's like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I'm an attorney. I go to the court houses all the time. And she's like, maybe we should braid your hair, right? Because like, I don't know if this is the best for you. We have all these other hairstyles. And she tried proposing different type of hairstyles that involve weave or extensions. And I'm like, no, I really want braids. I think lawyers can look like this. They can look like anything they want to look like. And I prefer to wear my hair in braids, and I'm going to use it to prove a point and to make a statement. And she's like, okay, so be it, girl. If you're ready, I'm ready. And I've been braiding my hair ever since. And I tell my parents, this is an extension of me. They're mine and I'm theirs. It's kind of weird. It's an extension of me. And just like you have beautiful hair, this is my beautiful hair and how I choose to wear it. So I love it. And that's really the backstory to it. Just thinking that you could have a brand new hairstyle after being 30 years old is crazy. But now there's no going back for me, Jocelyn. I'm going to continue rocking these braids till I can't no more.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that story. Yeah, I'm an advocate for natural hair, locks, braids, all the styles that are very popular in the Black community, but were not for a long time and still to this day not considered professional. And I think that's a part of being our authentic selves too, right? Because when we go on vacation, we braid up our hair. When when we're in school, and then all of a sudden we got to get a corporate job, and then we're putting chemicals, we're using heat and spending a lot of time and money, right?
Exactly.
And then it's not even like necessarily like you particularly love it, you just feel like that's what you had to do. Interesting.
Right.
So you are an attorney, you're going to court all the time, even though you're like a corporate compliance officer now, you still go to court. Talk to us about how you're, all these things that you're doing, but why do you do all of it?
You know, it's funny, you go to law school and you think, I'm going to do this one thing, and that's what I'm going to do till the end. And then life gives you amazing opportunities that, you know, normally we're telling each other, oh, I'm limited to doing this, I'm limited to doing that. This is what I anticipated I was going to do, so therefore I must still do that. And that wasn't my case, right? I went to law school thinking I'm going to work in the Innocence Project full time. I really want to work with factually innocent people, right? And I thought I would do that, and I did some of that through law school. And then I had an opportunity to become a public defender, right? I wanted to see how the system got it wrong in the first place before I really could help people after they were wrongfully convicted and incarcerated. And through law school, I had a wonderful opportunity to exonerate a man named Ladora Watkins with the Cooley Innocence Project. And he freed after 40 years of incarceration. And I thought, wow. And what Ladora said was, you know, I'm not a killer. And now I get to come out, live my life, and do what I want to do and what makes me happy, right? So that inspired me. I became a public defender, did that for a while. But I needed more money. Truth be told, I needed more money to pay my bills. And that's when I got the opportunity to go to Cooley Law School and work there as their campus director for a few years. Did that, loved it. And then, of course, an opportunity came knocking at Tampa General Hospital, where I work now. And you would never think, again, I'm coming out doing innocence work. Now I'm working in a JD preferred job, doing compliance and privacy work. But I knew that I was meant to be in the courtroom to help people somehow. So for my pro bono work, I am involved with Crossroads for Florida Kids, which is a nonprofit organization that represents children both in delinquency courts as well as dependency courts. Not all my children are innocent per se, but one thing I can say is that they need help, they need direction. And I wanted to use my voice to represent children that look like me. So to date, I've done over 500 pro bono hours representing at-risk youth, and majority of my clients have consisted of being women, girls, and boys of color. And we know that they're overly represented in the criminal justice system, unfortunately. But think about being in courtroom every single day, everyone's speaking all these things about you. And I just wanted to be able to have children have an attorney that looked like them, explain things to them in a way that they can understand and help them through that rough patch in their lives. So definitely everything I've done has gotten me up to this point. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love my pro bono work and what I do with those children. So it's definitely fun to do. And it keeps me in the courtroom, keeps me sharp with my legal skills and knowledge. That's my favorite part about it. Going into the courtroom, advocating for them, not doing that full time, just some of the time. And I think that's the perfect balance for me in my life right now. It worked out.
Yeah, and then you also have these great language skills that you're able to use in the courtroom. And, you know, you're also, like me, child of immigrants, right? And having to learn English as a new language, because a lot of people who've been in this podcast have had that experience, and I talk about it in the book. Do you want to share a little bit about your background with that?
Sure. I'm from the Dominican Republic. I was born in Dominican Republic and immigrated to the island of Puerto Rico at 4 years old, and where I lived with my parents for a while. And got that opportunity to do that. And then my parents, when I was 12 years old, my parents immigrated to Tampa, Florida, where I live now and have lived ever since. And for me, it's unique, right? My ethnicity is Hispanic and my race is Black. So I identify as an Afro-Latina. And it's really hard to find sometimes lawyers that look like me and have my same upbringing and background. But when I came here, it was hard to fit in, right? Jocelyn, I was too dark for the Hispanics and didn't speak English for Blacks or African Americans. So I was having a hard time fitting into those areas. But one thing I can tell you is that eventually when I started speaking English, Black people accepted me and welcomed me, and allowed me to thrive and learn the American way of life with them. And what I do now is I still speak Spanish fluently. My parents are still proud of that. And so what I do is take care of my clients in Spanish when they prefer to speak in that language, but not just my clients, but their parents, right? Their parents are also involved in their legal cases. And sometimes the child speaks perfect English, but the parent does not. So my Spanish skills gives me the opportunity to connect with them and educate them in the criminal justice system and the American adversarial system. So I stay sharp with my Spanish skills with my clients' parents and their families too. But definitely it's hard when you're like in middle school, which is the hardest time of a child's life. For some kids, it was definitely for mine, but eventually once I found my place, I thrived and it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about that in the book. Middle school was a really tough time for me because I was in a very advanced school that really pushed you. It was like for gifted students. And so now I'm like, yeah, because you're like, oh, homework. When you're book smart, right? Typical school is not hard for you. You show up, you study, you don't even have to study, and you do well. And then for the first time, I know I had to like bring all these books home. We had hours of homework every night, and then like you said, I'm English second language, right? And being an Afro-Caribbean person, but you look Black, so people just assume you're Black American. It's like, no, actually, we eat different kinds of foods. We're speaking a different language at home. We do things differently, and then there's that not quite fitting in aspect to it. So it's definitely for a lot of people, some growing pains happened right around those like 12 to 14 years old.
Think about how much help we people that happen to have children give to our kids, right? With their homework, with all their school assignments. But when your parents don't speak the language, and sometimes your parents never even got the opportunity to go through middle school, high school, college, so even in their native countries. So imagine how much harder it is for you as a child to have to do all the homework on your own, to try to educate your parents as well as educate yourself and really get through that. So it was hard for my parents. I remember my parents had like a little translator device, and they would type. Back then, like you couldn't like copy paste for some reason, like, so they had this little like translator device, and they would type every single word in there, and it would translate it for them the best way the device knew how. And then my parents would look at me and say, come on, you can do it. And I'm like, I don't know what this even means. And let alone, Jocelyn, I don't know if this was like that for you, but I had to translate my parents' documents. They would get mail and they'd be like, here you go, give it to me. I would have to translate it for them in my 6th grade, English, limited English skills to help them get by, and I think my parents and I bonded over that. And as hard as it was then, I'm so glad I was able to do that for them.
Yeah, I mean, my parents, they went to the classes to learn English, so they spoke it fluently by the time we were in school, but their accents were so heavy and they were really uncomfortable speaking English. And so I remember my mom, like, before you had touch dial, you had to, the first time they said, speak the name of where you want to go, and it never understood my mom. She's like, girl, come get the phone and tell the people where I want to go. And I'd say it and get it. She's like, that on it. And I'm like, Mom, it's okay. You have an accent. Like, if you learn another language as an adult, really hard to lose the accent, especially French and certain languages, like certain words she still can't say. Like, I can tell, like, when I spoke to your dad, certain words are hard to say in English. And then, the look people give you once they realize you have an accent. I'm sure you've seen people give your parents the look. Like, oh, here we go. Like, they just decide they don't know what the person's saying. It's like, you know what they said. They just have an accent. Right. Just listen carefully. So there's that layer as well. But like you said, I'm grateful that I was able to help them because they made this huge sacrifice so we could be here and be lawyers right now.
They sure did.
That was not a small thing. So can you imagine just getting them down, moving to a country you don't speak the language?
Think about it. And they've moved. They left their siblings, their parents behind, their cousins, so it's not like they just immigrated once. My parents immigrated twice. and leaving everything they knew behind for a better life for me and for my siblings. And I think that huge act that my parents made changes the course of our generations forever and ever. So the least that I can do is continue to hone in on my Spanish skills, continue to practice it so I can keep that part of my culture that means so much to me and that my parents gave me. And every single day they say how proud they are of me, but I'm even more proud of them. Because if somebody was to say to me, okay, move to another country and leave your siblings behind and leave your family, your friends behind, your careers behind, which they had to do and start again from scratch, I don't know if I have such courage. I don't. But I'm so glad they did it. And I'm so glad I'm here. Every single day I look at them and I'm like, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. They're going to be so happy when they hear this podcast. They're going to be like,
well, I'm loving it because we're good friends and this is our second podcast. I'm like, wait, I'm hearing these stories for the first time, y'all. So y'all get to hear it when I'm hearing it. And another point I make in the book that I want to touch on is being immigrants and child of immigrants. We sometimes pick up this, we gotta work, right? Because we watch our parents do it, but they had to. And it's like, we have to unlearn that now. Like, we're not meant to just continue to work so hard that we never have time to enjoy the prestige and the power and the money and the accolades and just the ability to rest, right?
That's true.
The leisure that's supposed to come with being lawyers and doctors and all this stuff. So, but I'm glad you represent the kids because that's really important. That's something that you had the career I wanted to have, by the way, because I always tell people that I went to law school, I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney and I wanted to advocate for children and I wanted to do employment law. I have done none of those things. I was a garden ad litem, but that was the career I wanted.
And you're a teacher and you're a professor now. I'd say too, though, Jocelyn, I mean, you are encouraging, helping, facilitating the next generation of lawyers to do this work, right? But it's never too late. Let me know if you want to co-counsel on a case. I will be more than glad to bring you on. It's never too late if you're looking for some pro bono opportunities, but also think about the impact that you're making in lawyers like myself, that, you know, you've greatly inspired me to continue doing what I'm doing. So give yourself a pat on the back for that too, though. Let's be real.
Okay. I just feel like I'm always like, oh, you know, but it's like just what you said in the beginning. Sometimes in your mind, you're like, this is the thing I'm going to do. And then the universe just opens up all these other opportunities. So doing all the things that you do, and you're married to your wonderful husband, Joe. Let's bring that part in too, because when we're talking about balancing all the things, that's one of the things, right? A whole human being.
A whole human being who is, you know, sometimes he's my child, sometimes he's my husband, sometimes he's my best friend, sometimes he's my pain. I've been married to Joe for 15 years and I got married right out of high school. I have one of those stories that people were like, oh my goodness, you're too young to get married. And I'm like, when you just know, you know. I don't know how I knew, but we were a military family and he's a military vet. And we did that for a while. And now he's retired or outside of the military and works at the VA hospital. But let me tell you, it's balancing work, life, you know, your spouse, your home, your pets. I don't have children yet, but balancing your pets, your life, everything you have to do it all at once. But I am blessed to have a spouse that understands, that helps, contributes here and there, and lets me push back a date night, a day or two, to do all the things that I love. And I think in turn that makes me love him even more, right? Because he gives me that opportunity and he's very flexible with my schedule and with me. And I think for anybody out there that asks me, how do you do it? I'm like, just get you somebody that is willing to work with you. That's really it. Willing to work with you through the ups, through the downs. And I'm blessed that I have him for that. He really is great. Not because he's here listening, I promise. Not because he's here listening. He really is great. He really is.
I know, you heard that, Joe? She said you're great on video. And we like to joke because it's like we married the same guy, right?
We did. In different bodies.
I know, and I've been married. We're going to be 16 years this year.
Congrats.
Yeah. So it's a similar story. So I know that Daniela's my sister from another mister. That's all.
Take up that space. Let your line take up that space that it needs to take. Because that's it. You only got one life. live it, do the best you can with how you can, stay out of people's business as much as you can, and believe in yourself. You can do it.
That part is that part for me. You can do it. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.